Hey guys, it's Glitchy here with the long promised Battlefield 6 video apparently. So to get right into it, I want to say that I am not the biggest Battlefield fan. For a good chunk of my life, if I had to subscribe to a specific FPS franchise, it probably would have been COD or Halo. But we see how that has been going for the last 6 years at the very least. Battlefield has always felt a bit alien as an FPS to me. I've only played a few of them, and it was always usually in the wake of a Call of Duty game that year not being too great. The first Battlefield I played out of spite for Call of Duty was Battlefield 1, which was a wild year since COD was just getting off the futuristic bandwagon, which led us to where we are now. COD going back to the future and Battlefield showing them what they should be doing. But before Battlefield 1, I'd also played Battlefield Hardline as well as Battlefield 4, and honestly, I don't see enough people say that Hardline was just dumb fun, and for what that game really was, I absolutely loved it. The campaign was a really different experience from what we usually get from the Battlefield series, and the game modes were centered around a cops and robbers experience. I had a lot of fun with Hardline, but for the most part, the Battlefield community has a really soft spot for Battlefield 4. 4 has that modern combat feeling while also being centered around like mostly cities, and I'll just be honest, I think it's just fine. I'm not a huge Battlefield guy, plus I got into 4 extremely late compared to everybody else, so it felt like there was a really high skill ceiling compared to the games where I was able to jump in from the very beginning. But what can I say? I absolutely loved Battlefield 4's campaign. It's fucking peak, to say the very least. The character struggling through the campaign was one of those moments where I realized just how different COD and Battlefield were. For as many set pieces as both of them have in their stories, COD uses set pieces for spectacle, while Battlefield uses theirs because they want to make the player feel small. One man in a war zone compared to a one-man army. Having a squad that is afraid of getting into a ginormous scuffle compared to Menendez just running through a village with a Spaz 12 and becoming a Doomslayer level killing machine. But we're here to talk about Battlefield 6. All that was just me wanting to talk about what parts of this franchise I felt were good, as well as what I like in comparison to other games. So I actually want to continue our new format of starting out with all the negatives I have for Battlefield 6, so then we can end off positive and glaze the fuck out of this game. Because for the most part, my negatives only pertain to one section of the game, as well as my thoughts on some of the maps in the multiplayer. So I don't think this is going to get anywhere near as heated as the Pokemon video did, as I don't have a bunch of corpo lingo to get really fucking tilted at. So as much as I love Battlefield 6, the campaign is unbelievably bad. I genuinely almost gave up on it and didn't write this section of the video and was just going to talk about how I feel about the multiplayer, but since I finished it and I paid $70 for it, I feel entitled to bitch about the experience. So, you know how I said Hardline story, despite it not being a masterpiece, that it was just dumb fun, just a cops and robbers story, and you know how Battlefield 4 had an actual story experience that I genuinely believe needed some sort of award? Battlefield 6 is no such experience. The story is extremely dull and made me feel absolutely no impact. When I was talking to a friend, they made me realize the way that this probably even came to be was that they finished the multiplayer and felt they should add a campaign probably at the last second. So most of the maps are just sections of the multiplayer chopped up to varying levels of success and turned into missions. These missions aren't particularly fun either. There are only 9 missions in the campaign, and for some reason, I felt like every single mission was 3 times longer than they really needed to be. As if while they were designing each of these levels, they had the most basic concept, then they started throwing darts at a board that told them what else they should do to pad the rest of the time. While as beautiful as the game looks throughout the campaign, there are definitely moments where the game falls into a COD lol spectacle over scale. Like, there is a fucking COD turret chase section in this Battlefield game. This Universal Studios ride bullshit feels so fucking off, especially when I find it out of nowhere. This all takes place in a mission where you have been infiltrating houses in Brooklyn to try and find militia members that have invaded the city. You find out there is a train that is a hacking system for the warships outside of Brooklyn so they can take over the full salvo and just bomb the fucking city. So by the very end of the mission, after the goddamn turret section, you've blown up the Brooklyn Bridge and need to climb all over it because somehow the train was left in almost perfect condition. Enough so that the transmission system for their little hacker was still able to function before you as the player showed up. Then there are like 3 more missions in Brooklyn, and all of them feel so fucking similar. Up until this point, you had constant variety, almost with a constant change of scenery. Oh, there's another car chase section. Fuck! But this isn't even the worst mission. There is a level in this game that takes place in the Middle East, and you are in a tank for 85% of it. This is easily the most boring mission in the game. It's just driving around and shooting at other tanks, adding nothing to what little story there is. Genuinely, you could remove it from the game and it does nothing to the overall story. Hell, it even adds to the gameplay experience if you remove it. The missions are so generally lazy that they blend together by the end of the story. There is nothing enjoyable about this game's story. The characters are flat military action heroes whose personalities vary from the leader type, the sarcastic type, the nerd, and the second in command who should be the leader. It is so embarrassing. There is no conflict between these characters, and they do not have any good moments. With one of the characters, they set up this survivor's guilt storyline where in the first mission, you get to experience this entire squad getting killed during an ambush on their military base where he just barely survived. This shit is revisited in one singular voice line and nowhere else in the campaign. It is the most inconsequential moment in the entire story, and it is set up as if it is going to be a major issue that the character is going to deal with. The only time they even touch on this issue later is when another character has a moment where they start shooting at a body of an enemy that's after they're already dead. This moment has no setup and comes out of nowhere, forcing a conversation between Mr. Survival's Guilt and Mr. I shoot at corpses because I'm really sad now. This all happens in the second to last mission of the game. Major story moments are genuinely useless now because all of this shit just gets turned on its head because of a shitty twist, as the entire plot has been the fault of the fucking CIA anyway. So you may as well have been doing nothing the entire time because all of it was the CIA's exact design. Besides the fact that the guy they knew was an impulsive psycho ratted them out right before he was shot in the fucking head. The ending even sets up a sequel to this game by leaving it open as the main crew is now wanted for treason because they found out the truth. As if in recent times, Battlefield has been known for overarching stories across multiple campaigns. But that about sums up my negatives for the campaign and honestly, the entire game besides personal opinion on the maps. So basically, the worst part of the game is the part of the game that EA literally tells you to uninstall after you complete it. Honestly, I wish they just wouldn't have even done a campaign, especially if in some other world, the campaign is what made the game cost $70 instead of like $60. If they would have just not spent any money on the campaign and charged $60 for the whole game, I guarantee it would have had endless praise for being more affordable than COD this year, as well as wouldn't have any real negative points against the game at all, because with the story being complete shit, it brought down scores across the board, because technically it is part of the game. But with all of that out of the way, I really want to get into multiplayer and my thoughts on it. So this isn't going to be how like you normally do things here. I'm going to go over what I like as well as some of the stuff I don't, but I want to frame all of this as my personal opinions, as I know there's going to be a little bit of hot takes here for some people. So to put it in simple words, at the very least, the multiplayer is great. It feels really fun and fluid, and honestly, I don't really know what I was expected, even though I didn't personally play like a game like 2042. just had a really sour taste in my mouth for this series, because the last time I played a Battlefield was Battlefield 5, and I couldn't play that for more than 2 hours before I just wanted to spoon out my fucking eyeballs. But this game has never made me so happy to be able to say, EA actually fucking did something right. Every single gun, for the most part, feels viable to use and feels strong, or they have something that you can prefer over another weapon. Whichever weapon you use, it doesn't matter, just as long as you, the player, like to use it. With enough practice with any gun, you're going to be able to find success, and personally, I really like shotguns in any shooter, and luckily, I have had no shortage of shells to launch at enemies while playing. Sneaking into the backline for enemy objectives with a shotgun-centered playstyle can net you a lot of kills and distract other enemies so that your teammates can make a push even if it comes at your sacrifice. Or maybe you get lucky and a medic picks you up after they have a successful push. Which, speaking of medics, I know it's controversial, but I personally really like all of the classes being able to use all of the different weapons. Plus, even if I didn't like it, there's a separate playlist that has the classic playstyle where weapons are locked behind specific classes. And I personally play a medic with a shotgun, so I can just run in, revive a lot of people on OBJs, and if I don't get gunned down, then I can get right into killing whoever's left. All of the classes besides the Assault class feel extremely important. Assault is a pretty basic class. It's really run and gun, very classic soldier kind of build. Medic is useful because reviving other players isn't just limited to your own squad. You can run around with defibs and revive as many people as you want, while Engineer is the one class that can repair vehicles as well as use the anti-vehicle weapons. And then there's Recon, only class that can use recon drones as well as some anti-personnel equipment like claymores. And again, I really feel like all of these classes have their own useful equipment, making them feel different, even though all of them can use the exact same weapons in the majority of the playlists. Because if I personally couldn't just use my 12 gauge while using defibs on my buddies, my enjoyment of this game would not be as high as it is right now. But that is the only actual system that takes place inside the game. The other half of this puzzle is the maps. Now, I'm only going to talk about my standouts for each of the maps discussed, but if I don't mention a map, you can automatically assume that my thoughts are either positive or neutral enough that I did not want to rip at a new asshole. So, starting out with my highest rated map, I wanted to talk about the Siege of Cairo. No matter what game mode, this map holds up pretty damn well. For the most part, the map takes place in one large middle section, then the other 2/3 of the map are alleyways and small streets, well, with small buildings. And the middle of the map is an absolute fucking war zone, usually having a point that centers around this bus that is teetering on a crater. You have so many options of trying to contest this singular point, either hiding behind ruins of destroyed buildings, going inside said bus, or hiding underneath the bus and being in the thick of it, as well as being at the mercy of a stray airborne grenade. Running through different bazaars as well as small areas where war has transformed a civilian safe space into a bullet-torn hell, it truly makes the title of this game come out into the limelight as just a magnificent battlefield. I have genuinely never had so much fun on one of these games, or just in a shooter in general. The immersion level is absolutely insane when it comes to this game because there's no crazy skins. You just look around, see a war-torn state, and see other soldiers with distinct gear for their class. No Nicki Minaj or Beavis and Butthead to be seen. Just war. But let's get back to the maps. So I want to cover a map I don't really like at all. Then we can back to a map where I just feel meh about. But I know this is going to tilt some heads, but I personally have no connection to this map. But Operation Firestorm is not a great experience in this game, in my humble opinion. I don't even think it's the game's fault. It's really just down to personal preference. I really like close quarter maps that have plenty of space for people to pile up and get into a huge clusterfuck fight with. But with Operation Firestorm, that is just completely lacking. The only place in this map that really fits into that category is inside one of the warehouses, as well as between these shipping containers when you're running to a different warehouse. Now, the map might be a sniper's dream as well as the players who can actually fly the fucking helicopters, but for me, this map is nothing but a nightmare when I get it in the rotation. Even when you go into the small scale version for something like Team Deathmatch, it becomes a king of the hill no matter what, with everyone trying to use one ladder to get up on top of a warehouse so that they can get easy kills on anyone down below, as well as just set up claymores so no one can get up the one ladder. I've always found these maps to be annoying, because it's not like the devs didn't know that this was going to fucking happen, because this map is a remaster of a remaster. But honestly, I know this map is beloved by many, and I respect whoever likes this map, but I personally am not a fan. The last map I wanted to talk about is Manhattan Bridge, which I feel has some great moments to be had on this map and some great fun to be had as well, but I feel like the momentum on this map is really either one-sided or extremely even. No matter what on this map, it always feels like it's extremely slow or a huge stomp up by one team. When you have slow matches on this game, they can take damn near an hour, and sometimes you can just be stuck in a state of begging to be let out of whatever hell you have found yourself in. This is usually the map I find happens the most on, where the points are in a varying level of fun to play on. Like in Conquest, you've got 2 points on separate sides being your spawns, and they're just out in the street with barely any cover, which is a double-edged sword, and it's meant to be. No cover for the enemies to invade, and there's no cover for you to take it back as a punishment for the team that lost it, since it's so close to the HQ. But then you have another point on top of a roof, which, if you have it captured, you can use that as a way to parachute down to either the enemy base or down to a point inside of a tunnel where most of the killing is probably going to be taking place. Then the final, or other point, I guess you could say, is inside of a construction site where there are plenty of spaces to look out onto the streets and have a defense, and there's so many corners as well as small areas to hide. Now, these all flow together really well in a match where everything is evenly matched, and all of these points give you completely different advantages or prove to be a pain in the ass to capture. But when you are in a match where you're basically being thrown at a wall, this map feels like a curse on your soul. Which I guess technically adds to the experience immersion-wise, since, you know, if you're losing a war, there's no god that's going to come out of nowhere to call a timeout. But as a game, I wish it would give a bit more of a chance for a comeback in this specific case, but that isn't all the time, and I can't really blame the actual map for it, but I can blame my shit-ass fucking teammates that I get paired with, which is why I feel neutral on this map. But for the most part, other maps I think are okay, as I said before, or I just don't have enough to say about them to warrant an entire section of this video. So, all in all, Battlefield 6, absolutely bumbling fucking shit-ass story, while having an extremely in-depth multiplayer mode that is what everyone actually came here for. So, not only did I not really have to write 4 pages of the script, but all of my bitching is for something the majority of players probably won't play or even install. Also, at the time of writing this video, the Battle Royale has just been released, but I'm not going to cover that because, to be honest, Battle Royales aren't really my cup of tea. Especially when they aren't built on a system that wasn't meant for an FPS arena shooter or whatever subgenre Battlefield is. But if I had people requesting to make a video on it, maybe I would, but as of right now, I have no plans to try it out. So, to end it out, what did you think of Battlefield 6? Leave a comment letting me know your thoughts and what your favorite map is. And if you felt so kind, please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'll see you when I see you. This is Glitchy, signing off.